Anime is one of the biggest types of media in the world. It's gotten a literal chokehold on Western society. Every second person you've walked by has at least heard of anime, and every third person has heard of it for the wrong reasons. I wouldn't be surprised if America loved anime more than Japan did. And throughout the rise in popularity of anime has come some things. I'm still wondering if this has had a good or bad impact on the world. It's probably both, but you know how it is. Nobody likes a centrist, unless it's me. Anime, without a doubt, is an incredible form of media. The visuals, the storytelling, the visuals are all key reasons as to what make it so great. But there are definitely some very fair and, dare I say, overlooked criticisms of it. That's what we're here to discuss today, sports fans. Before I get into this, I'm not going to be criticizing any show to a significant degree, which won't invalidate this video because the points I make do not require that. I'm only going to be talking about the general things I've seen across the animes I've watched, or at the very least, that's what I intend to do. Also, I want to make a video answering you guys' questions, so if you have any, just leave them below. In every single anime, there is a main character, and the main character is what the show is supposed to be built around. But with a lot of animes, specifically shonens, there seems to be a very repetitive trope. There's a character, usually a boy, who's obnoxiously loud, that has some sort of disadvantage compared to everybody else, but strives to be the best and has a never give up attitude. It's funny how many times this has been used. Fish Paste Boy, who has a Jinchuriki inside of him and is thus outcasted by everybody else in the village. He's very loud and obnoxious and wants to be Hokage. Izuku Midoriya, in a world full of powers, was born without any. Was bullied as a kid for it, but nonetheless wants to be the #1 hero. I'm gonna get into that guy in a little bit. Asta, in a world of wizards and magic, doesn't have any. Is constantly made fun of for it, but still wants to be the Wizard King. Do you see what I'm getting at here? The same old character of, oh, I've been born with a disadvantage, but I'm still gonna become the best anyways. It's just so overdone. Now, this trope can be done pretty well. Naruto and Asta are pretty great examples of this, but ones like Midoriya are the exact opposite. See, Midoriya was born in a world where 80% of people had powers, and he ended up being part of the 20% that didn't. He wants to become a hero, okay? He wants to be just like his buddy All Might. But what happens instead of his dreams being crushed? He gets the same powers the #1 hero had. You're telling me this idiot just had to run into a situation he was not qualified to be in order to have a chance at being the #1 hero? Bro got a $100 starter pack for free. Now you're probably wondering why I have an issue with this, but it completely kills the point of giving the character a disadvantage. What's so interesting about seeing the struggles of a powerless person in a powerful world if they're not powerless for long? A big part of Midoriya, in fact the only interesting part about him, was that he was powerless. I think it would have been super interesting to see him take more of like a Batman role, and although you may not be the best hero, you could still be a pretty good one. And even if you don't want to go that route, you could at least give him a power that at face value looks pretty weak, but as he learns and grows, it gets more and more useful. But to be given a great hand because yours sucks is such an easy cop-out. And you may argue, well, that's not what the show's about, but then that's just not interesting. Rock Lee is a great example of what Midoriya should have been. Rock Lee isn't able to cast jutsus like everybody else, but what he can do is learn taijutsu to the best of his ability, and in return became one of, if not the best at it. He was dealt a pretty bad hand at life, but he didn't complain and worked on the things that he could improve on. And even if he couldn't be the greatest ninja ever, he can be the greatest ninja to do what he does. Midoriya got an easy out to his situation. The weight and burden he had to bear from not having any powers was just completely wiped away. Other than that, he's just your average shonen protagonist. Now, I understand shonen anime is meant for teenage boys, but still, that's not an excuse. Stories shouldn't be repetitive because they're targeted at a certain demographic. The scripting in a lot of shows are also really bad. Now, I'm no professional writer, but I don't think I need to be in order to spot how terrible some of these are. Literally, you'll catch some characters saying the same things in different ways for over a minute. Super Ball Blaster! Whoa, that Super Ball Blaster is coming towards me. If it explodes on me, it'll hurt me really bad. The Super Ball Blaster is coming at a rapid rate. If I don't move now, it'll be the end for me. I don't want to think about what would happen if the Ball Blaster were to hit me. The Ball Blaster is almost here. I need to act now. It's like, bro, just move. It's probably because they want to stretch out the episode, but still. It shouldn't take you a minute to move 3 feet away from an oncoming projectile. And I swear, so many of these shows have Power Ranger syndrome, where they can talk and talk walk and talk and do whatever they need, and their opponents just be chilling and watching. Like, you're telling me you're gonna wait an hour for them to charge up their special weapon, you're not gonna throw hands in between that time? Yeah, okay, buddy, if you lose, that's your fault. This doesn't happen to all animes, but it does in a lot of them. This isn't necessarily a criticism, this is more of a preference. I just like the English voice actors compared to the Japanese. I don't know if it's because I'm used to it or if I'm too American. They just seem a lot more fitting to the character. Like, I like Goku's English voice actor way more than I like his Japanese one. But there's probably some shows out there that make me think otherwise. There's a lot of weird stuff in anime, which is a big reason as to why I don't like it. I could be watching a show and it seems fine at first, but then it has these moments that are just really off-putting. A big part of that is fan service. I don't mean to sound like a prude, but it's really annoying to see. I don't really like the objectification of anybody in order to satisfy a certain audience. You don't need that to make an interesting show. And a lot of the times it's really overdone, and in some cases that's all a character is. If I want to see that type of stuff, there's a place for that. But when I'm trying to watch a show about fighting, I don't want to see a bunch of oopsie panty shots every 3 frames. And I know some of you will argue, oh, it's some of these shonen, it's a shonen. That doesn't make it any better. A more viable point seems to be a lot of the female heroes. Mount Lady, fan service. Midnight, fan service. Momo, weirdly enough, fan service. In fact, Momo's whole character is just weird. So she has the ability to pull anything out of her body, as long as she knows the scientific makeup of it. And due to that, she has to wear revealing clothing. It seems to be quite the coincidence that this character wasn't a guy. Especially in a shonen where women tend to be overly sexualized, I'm not surprised that this was the case. Funnily enough, there seems to be a lot of male fan service. If you're gonna have fan service, at least have an equal amount. Let me reiterate, I'm not against fan service. There's just too much of it on a lot of shows, and one sex seems to be heavily favored over the other. Which brings me to sexism, in which there's a lot of it. I won't go into specifics, but there are a couple videos that do, which I recommend you watch. A lot of sexism in anime consists of a lot of things. Underdevelopment of female characters, giving female characters romantic interest that distracts their development, and just outright screwing them over. I'm only bringing this up because this tends to happen with a lot of female characters, rather than just people in general. Sakura being one of the biggest examples. Her entire purpose in life was just to be with Sasuke. She had other skill sets as well. They just got pushed to the side. And I don't blame her specifically for this. I blame the creator. Quit screwing over your female characters and making it so their only purpose is to be sexually appealing. It's not hard to make a female character with depth, because you're just making a character with depth. Again, this seems to be more prevalent in shonen anime, but I'm sure there are a lot of other examples that aren't. I may sound like a crazy feminist, but there's a lot more to women in their bodies. Again, it's not hard to write a good female character. You're simply just not wanting to. Across a lot of anime, there seems to be a lot of illegal romance. It seems to be very prevalent in anime. One specific example is Gauche from Black Clover. Gosh, I'll just call him G. G and his little sister Marie. Every time this dude mentions his sister, hears her name, or even thinks about her, he gets a crazy nosebleed. That girl looks under the age of 10. In no way should that dude be that out bad for a girl that young. And don't even pull out the, oh, he has anemia card. Yeah, what a blanket shield. Weirdly enough, every single time Marie is mentioned, he gets a crazy nosebleed. There's literally a scene of her just like running and he gets a crazy nosebleed. Like, what? No, that's just weird. Nobody wants to see that. And if people do want to see that, then my hatred for anime is very justified. There's also a lot of other projections in anime. Things like certain desires. And it's just so unnecessary. You don't need it in order to tell a story. It's just you wanting to put your sick fantasy into your show. It's just so gross. I'm sick of people looking past it. If a show has anything like that, then I'm immediately gonna think the creator is weird. I don't care how good a show is. If I see anybody catching feelings for a crawler, I'm immediately watching something else. Anime in general is really good. The visuals can be awesome, the characters can be interesting, and the story can be intriguing. But I've seen too many bad apples at this point. I've seen a lot of issues in very popular anime that seems to just be brushed off. Issues that would be very big deals in other areas. I can't continue to watch a show just because the good parts are really good when the bad parts are really bad. Not every show should be some crazy deep think piece, but the entertainment shouldn't be bland and repetitive and all around weird. If you're gonna make a show about fighting, make a show about fighting. You don't have to project to the audience how much you like feet. And there are some good animes, I know. Animes like Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, Baki. Those are really good shows expressing how good anime can be. But when you have a lot of decent shows that have some really bad parts to them, I can't simply just ignore that, especially when it's as extreme as wanting to diddle little guys. I won't generalize anime as terrible, but the minority is too major to ignore. And until that changes, I will think to some degree, anime sucks.